When we discuss about the property law of this country, an area of interest specifically is with regard to purchase of land, but also a separate part within purchasing lands and property is also the condominium law. With the developing economy and the recent trends, this area of law has gained momentum again. However, there are certain things that a purchaser might not know when it comes to purchasing a condominium property. We have an expert in the field today joining us to speak on this specifically, Mr. Senakadi Seram, attorney at law, who will explain to you what aspects that you need to take a look at in purchasing a condominium property. In order to make an entrance to this conversation, sir, can we briefly explain as to how the condominium law is different from the normal law on purchasing a property?
Yeah, Ganguly. Now, if you take the normal law is the normal property laws you get in Sri Lanka. But due to the fact that the normal property laws are not equipped to deal with the issues that you get in tall high-rise buildings, there was a need to bring statute law. So as you know, statute law overrides the common law. So because of that, in every part of the world, this started mostly in New York, and where high-rise buildings started in New York and America, and then later spread to other parts of the world. They bought a specialized act to deal with high-rise buildings, because you have to understand you are dealing with issues not in relation to one property and one house and one owner.
Yes.
Here you have multiple owners having their separate legally owned unit, and also there are areas in common where they all own and share. Yes. And also somebody needs to manage those common areas. So that can't be done by the normal property law. So that is why there is a special act, and in Sri Lanka it's the apartment ownership law.
So, when purchasing a condominium property or even when renting it, what should a purchaser generally be aware of? What documents do they need to go through?
Yeah, first of all, if one is going to buy a apartment, there are two ways of doing it. Either you go to a developer who is doing a project, or you buy a second-hand one. So if you are in the primary category, I said, where you go to a developer, put up your money and try to buy an apartment, nowadays in Sri Lanka, the first thing you have to watch is who is this developer? Because people who have come to us are finding it very difficult to deal with these developers. There are the good ones. You get very good apartment developers in Sri Lanka who have a very unblemished name. But unfortunately, I should say now, given what happened in COVID, given what happened with our fuel crisis and the economic situation, the constructors have not been able to deliver their product to their customers. And some have even gone to the extent of abandoning their project. So then you have a situation where you have given your money to this developer, signed an agreement, and the developer is not there, the property is not yours, and you don't have your unit. So the first thing, if you are not buying a second-hand apartment, is you have to have an eye on who this developer is. If you are buying a second-hand apartment, it's not an issue. You go to the place, see whether you like the place, walk around, have a look whether the building has been maintained, and so on and so forth, and decide on a location. So once you do that, once you have identified a good developer, once you have identified a good location, there are primary documents that apply. First thing is, if it's a developer, they will give you a sales and purchase agreement. That is because at that moment there is only a land there. There is no deed of transfer to give it to you. So they will do a sale and purchase agreement. So you're dealing here with millions of rupees. So not that I'm trying to promote lawyers, you will find it extremely difficult to understand these documents, the approvals required. So there are series of approvals for a condominium project. There are minimum of 20 good approvals that you need to get. You won't understand all this as a layman. Sometimes we find that our own profession doesn't understand it. So I don't know how a layman will understand it. So because of that, it may be in your interest to pay that little extra and retain a good lawyer who knows this subject on it, because at the end of the day you mess that agreement up and that's it for you, right? Because they are one-sided agreements. Now you go and get a credit card from a bank, they will give you an agreement and say sign there. So that is exactly what happens when it comes to a developer. But you can negotiate this. At the end of the day, It's your money. If you don't like the conditions in that, you can say, okay, I'm going to another place. So the main document is that, and thereafter they will give you a deed after they register the condominium plan, and with that you get ownership. If it's the second category I said, you deal with the seller and he will give the deeds to you with regard to the property, and you will do it like a normal transfer where you do a deed of transfer in your name.
So speaking about the first category, now we mentioned there are plenty of occasions where people do invest in large-scale developing projects for condominium properties, but ultimately at the end of the construction, in multitude of occasions, they might not receive the end result of it, as in the end document that they need in their hand to claim this as their own property. Speaking of this, sir, can we explain briefly as to what documents you should necessarily ask from your developer once the project has been completed?
Yes. Now, as I told you earlier, the developer will give you that sale and purchase agreement to you. That is the first document. Before you sign that, you ask them what are the approvals you have got to do this building in the initial. They definitely need a building plan. Without the building plan, you can't even put a brick on the ground. The next thing is there is a thing called the provisional condominium plan, which some developers don't register. So there are the good developers do register the provisional condominium plan. Ask for a copy of it if it's there, because then when you have that provisional condominium plan, you can go to the developer and say, can you show me in this plan what unit you are going to sell? Because there are so many developers who offer the sun and the moon, but what is there in the final condominium plan or this provisional plan that I told you is only what you will get. Some people offer you dedicated car parks. Some people offer you like an exclusive balcony with common with other people. But if they are not there in these plans, you are not going to get it in your final deed. And after the developer leaves, if a lawyer has not properly advised you, then what happens is you won't have these rights as they say. So the last document is the final condominium plan, which is registered. If the developer has got that, he has complied with most of the requirements for this building. You must get hold of that and show it to the relative notary that is going to do your deed. Because if you miss out anything and the developer is no longer there, you can't be running behind them. As you know, you can't be running behind the seller after the sale is done to rectify your issues. So what we find even in our profession, the lawyers are lazy to go through that condominium plan because it's a big book. Now, if you have a building of 150, 300 units, each unit is described in that. So even our good friends in our profession sometimes are lazy to go through that. They will just take that sale agreement given by the developer and do the deed. Later on, they find there are so many issues, and when they have to rectify them, the developer says, no, I am done with this project. My lawyers are not there. You do whatever you like. So you stand to lose out.
Finally, sir, if a developer fails to honor the sale and purchase agreement, does the client have any remedy? What action can they take to rectify the damage?
Yeah. So the first advice I'll give you is, before I answer that question, is make sure that the project is going in the time frames that is there. Don't enter into a sale agreement which is time where you pay advances of money based on time. Try to enter in the sale agreement milestones. First floor, when it's completed, you will pay so much. Second floor, base, top floor, rooftop, so that you make payments according to the progress of the building. Don't pay the developer if the building is not going ahead, because sometimes you may not get anything at all if the developer is going bunk. The next question is, what is the recourse you have? So there is a place called the Condominium Management Authority. It's a statutory body. You can go and complain there, because a developer is required to issue you the deeds finally. So most of these developers who have finished the building sometimes have not issued the deeds. So you can go there and complain, and the benefit of going there is they have wide powers, not like a court of law, which you and I know we are restricted to the legal framework. They have wide powers to inquire into this, summon the developer, go and do inquiries and do get commissions out to see whether the building structure is okay. So all that is done by this authority. But the flip side of the coin is this authority is inundated with work, and they don't have enough staff to grapple with all the issues that we have in Colombo and all around the world in Sri Lanka. They are the only institution in Sri Lanka, so they have to deal with all these projects, and they don't have the necessary resources to have decisions coming out of that place soon.
They
So
don't have branch officers,
they
I
don't have
just.
branch officers, and also the staff they have is not enough to deal with this boom we are having here. So then the other option you have is going and meeting a lawyer and going to court, and there is a thing called, you can ask from court relief called specific performance, where you say you have complied with that agreement, now you comply with your part. But as you know, going to court is not an easy job. You have to spend your money, you have to spend your time, and you will be frustrated at that time also, because you have given your money, you have signed this agreement, and nothing has happened. And at the end of the day, you will find the court procedure also takes time, because sometimes people blame lawyers like us, but when you look at it, in reality, even the court system is inundated with work, so it will take some time. So you have to draw a balance what you are going to do. So meet somebody who knows this subject, and he will advise you how to deal with it, but it's not a short procedure if the developer doesn't give you a unit.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable legal advice. I think the last point that we have to take is that, as Mr. Deserum properly mentioned, is that this is not a very easy area of law for a layman to negotiate or navigate by themselves. Therefore, legal assistance might be required from the onset of purchasing a condominium property. Having considered all of these things, the final remark that we need to enter here is that the condominium law as it is stands different from the normal law on purchase of property. Therefore, with the complexities that is involved, it might be absolutely essential that you seek for any legal advice at any point if you have any doubt or clarification that needs to be made when purchasing a condominium property.